Never a dull moment in broadcast excellence history. Went to go start the show today, and what do you know? I spilled coffee all over the console. Nothing smoked but my intellect. What's been your biggest concern about getting started in trucking? And to those of you who are in trucking, what's your concern about keeping going? Would a streamlined credentialing process address that? Would it benefit the individual, or would it benefit big trucking? Well, today we're talking about a couple of news stories that can make some changes to all that. We're talking about some feel-good news, and as usual, covering all kinds of good views coming up in moments. You are with what I call the internet's best show. As soon as I get back around to the screen I'm supposed to be on, technical difficulties are ruling me today. That's all right. It's a unique show. It'll be lots of fun, I promise. So begins another day of broadcast excellence here in the Truckin City Mobile Studios, currently located in Grand Junction, Colorado. Boy, don't I get around. Founded by a leader in charge of the fastest movement in social media, with a skill granted by God himself to restore your faith in broadcast talent. From behind the golden truth in broadcast microphone, defending the honor of our United States of Trucking. We are in it for the millions of you worldwide, feeling neglected, misinformed, and constantly lied to. Get ready to dial in, folks. I'll broadcast my studio line momentarily. This is your chance to sound off and be your voice. Let your voice be heard on the issues that affect you and me in trucking. Today we're talking about a number of things. We're making it good, we're making it loud, and it's all for you guys. I'm your host, Boss Man, the CIC of the Truth in Broadcasting Network. Just remember, viewer contributions are the backbone of what this show is all about. Twice a week, Saturdays, close to 11 as I can, and Wednesdays at 7. We sound off, we hear your opinions, your thoughts, and we make your voice count. Don't settle for silence. Settle for victory. We make your voice count. That's our mission here. We help you win the day. Why is it you go forward, not backward? I don't get it. My controls are acting funny, guys, so bear with me. There's usually a straight direction, forward, not backward. All right, I should have tested this stuff out before I started, so if I'm a little discombobulated, I apologize. We are starting our show off on a good note today. A feel-good story. So let's get started.
Shall we begin?
From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth in Broadcasting Network. Welcome to Truckin City News FrontLine Podcast. Hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Boss Man.
That's right. It's me, enlivened in the flesh. Can't change it. Wouldn't if you wanted to. Today we're diving into a set of stories that are so-called little things. I call them little things. They could be a lot bigger than they seem. And here's why I say so. Really need to fix my mouse because this is getting irritating. And no, it's not going to get religious. I have a reason. If you're a trucker nowadays trying to navigate the latest government challenges, regulations, rules, and everything, it can seem overwhelming. But it's all in how you look at it. Stick around and stick with me, because despite all the technical issues and the juvenile appearance of this show, I do have my act together. I put together 3 different stories. And all 3 are going to show you that really everything is up to you. Choice you make will dictate the future before you. So what happens when those little things start piling up, creating a mountain of red tape, just like on my thumbnail? Well, do you choose to give up, or do you choose to continue and trench forward? Joel Osteen once said, you can choose to not let little things upset you. If that were the case, I'd be off the air right now. Because before I started today, I had coffee all over the console. I had it all over the floor. Coffee cups were leaking. The wife back at home, she's got difficulties with coffee. So just overall, guys, it's a bad day for coffee. Kick the caffeine habit. You too can choose not to let the little things upset you. See, I knew this would come to serve me well. So let's get this day started. Let's bring on the guests, and let's see if they have better luck with coffee than I did. So one at a time, give me a second here, because my computer is being as juvenile as my coffee cup is. So let's get this party started. My man, Driving with John, I understand you don't do or coffee, so you can't relate. But tell me about them choices. You made one at the beginning of the month. Is it panning out for you? Boy, you talk about a segue into a... I'm good at segues. Apparently, people aren't good at talking back, so I'll move on. Grumpy, what about you?
Hang on just 1 second. Technical difficulties on my end. It's not coffee, though. It's not
Everybody's
coffee.
watching this show, and they're like, what did I do?
Sorry, boss man. I'm back.
I mean, good Lord.
Hey, at least it's not a coffee predicament.
I was going to say, I'm going to go get myself another cup of coffee. I'll let the show run itself. I'll be back.
Can you hear me, boss man?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
I hear you.
Okay.
Good Lord, you guys are incredible.
Well,
Okay.
I told you I wouldn't be able to be into those things. I'm kind of working right now.
I get you. I'm just picking on you, John. But what about the choice at the beginning of the month? Are you living it, loving it, or regretting it?
A little bit of all those.
Really? Wow. Talk about keeping them strung up. I swear.
Well, I'm telling you. Well, I'm telling you. I'm liking the idea that I lost weight. I like that there's things about me that have changed, but I hate the idea that I haven't eaten food I want to eat in a month. But as of tomorrow, I'm no longer on this challenge, and I can tell you there is some good food coming in my near future.
There you go. There you go. Well, with every pain point, there is a reward. That is just it. It's just like I opened the show with. You can choose not to let the little things bother you. And that, my friend, is what this 30-day challenge has basically taught me. And I'm sure it's worked well in your favor. How about you, Grumpy? I mean, without giving results and without actually being the, levy of bad news or good news, one way or the other, have you, liked it, loved it, regretted it? What's to say?
I can say I feel a lot better. That's what I can say on that. I can really truly say that since I've cut a lot of things out that I didn't really need in my life,
Mhm.
I've been a lot more energetic.
Cool. That's good. See, there's always a plus. See, even though you lose, you win.
Yeah.
Gee, I wonder who said that. Person not accountable, but yeah, that person was my wife. Very smart words indeed. How about you, Larry? Do you ever really wake up day after day and let the little things get to you, or do you just brush it off? How do you handle it?
No, I don't.
Uh,
I just brush it off. You can't sweat the little stuff.
no, you can't. No, you can't. I mean, little stuff really nowadays,
Grab you another cup of coffee and take a walk.
and just hope that your next cup of coffee doesn't leak like mine did. I've got a messed up console right now. I've got to clean after this show now.
That's why you get a leak-proof cup.
Go ahead and brag. Yeah. I don't know. You guys
six in here. Which one you want?
Yeah. Push it. Go ahead. You'll become Larry the Walker in a minute. So tell me, Poet, do you have these issues? Do you worry about small stuff like this up in the north? Do you let the little things get to you?
I try not to, but unfortunately, only human. So yeah, some of them do.
There you go. Let me ask you a question. Just totally off base question, because I'm noticing your camera is following your movement. Do you have one of those 360 cameras?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. Yeah. Or you just got auto framing set up on it, because it looks like it follows you wherever you move. It's cool as hell. It really is.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm looking. No,
yeah,
I'm on
yeah.
my iPad.
Okay.
I'm on my iPad because that's the only way I can get StreamYard, and then I'm also watching on my PC so I can comment.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, whatever way you've got it set up, Poet, is excellent, because I'll tell you what. I mean, you had me thinking it was a 360 camera, so I'm gonna have to look into one of them, because I'll tell you what, those 360 cameras, I've seen people run them and I've seen people use them. They are awesome, tricky but awesome. So I appreciate that. Thumper and Bo, I like that. Bo, is it Bo or Bo?
Well, Bo is his name, but everybody calls him Bobo.
I love it. So there's some reason not to let the little things bother you. Hey, if the little things bother you, all you just got to do is say, sick 'em, Bo.
Yeah, right. No, this is actually kind of how we're sitting right now is a normal routine for us. We sit here every morning, and I'll sit and pat him for about 20, and then we'll hit the road.
There you go. All right. Well, we're going to open the studio lines, and we're going to get to the star show of the day, which is the first story. 860-785-3547, 860-785-3547. If in your listening to the next story, you develop an opinion and you feel like it's very important for the rest of the world to know about it, call in, let us know. We will put you up, let you sound off and be heard. First story of the day comes us as soon as I get the screens right. I am not getting cooperation from my computer today. Comes to us as another form of inspiration. It's a story that'll kind of warm your heart and remind you that what trucking is all about is paying it forward. A man named Dusty Porter, who I'm going to show here because I took the liberty of giving a shot of this. Spent 52 years behind the wheel. I know somebody on this panel that can probably relate to this. And racked up 3.8 million safe driving miles. But to him, it's not just driving that's impressive, it's his heart. And others reported in this. The links will be in the description once the show is complete. Dusty has decided to dedicate his life to helping others. It's kind of an older story, but I thought it apropos for this day and age and this kind of show. Dusty's philosophy is simple. Do what your heart tells you is right. And he lives by that philosophy every single day. Whether it's helping the struggling driver back into a spot or talking someone through a dark place in his life. He's always there. He's always lending a hand without even a moment's second thought. He's even named one of the travel centers of America. He has been named one of TA's citizen drivers of 2021, an honor that he received very well and was well publicized, which is what I'm reading from. Dusty's story doesn't stop there. He's also a talented photographer, and he uses his skills to capture the spirit of the trucking industry. He goes to events like GATS, MATS. We all know that. Let me tell you, this man's a pillar of the community. He's the kind of guy who sees someone in need and steps up. So here's to you, Dusty. And here's just a thought to those watching the show. Even though this story's got a few years, it still resembles what I want you guys out there to think about and remember. It don't hurt to take 1 second out of your day to say, hello, stranger. I feel your pain. You might not be able to give them anything but attention. But that by itself is a choice you will never regret. So what do you guys think of that? I mean, is that more or less to your thinking the way, and put it in the comments. Let me know. I'm going to catch up on comments here in a second. Is that the way the industry should be? And do you think it's really there and we're just missing it? Let me know in the comments. Call me up 860-785-3547. Let me know what you think. Thumper, what do you think? Do you think there's not enough of that in today's day and age? Or do you think we pretty much have enough of it now?
There isn't. I've actually noticed over quite a few from North Dakota, Minnesota area, and even would stop to see if, somebody would be okay now that everybody's got a cell phone, and with all the going on, not going to really go into details, that has kind of stopped.
Yeah.
It's come back.
It never hurts. And a perfect example is the route I'm on now. Route 70 going through Denver all the way into Grand Junction. For the most part, pretty good signal. But there's a couple of areas. If you break down, you're on your own. I get that old circle with the line through it. A couple of places in there. Don't break down when that happens because you're going to be walking until you get one.
Yeah, well, and I was talking to you about that not last night, but the night before.
Yeah.
I had a driver in Montana driver breakdown, and he sat there. He had no cell service there for 6 hours, and the closest town was 10. Somebody stopped and gave him a ride to the next town so he could call.
Wow, that's a nice thing. That's a very nice thing. Otherwise, you've been out of luck. Larry, do you think we have enough of that in this industry, or do you think that kind of pay it forward attitude should kind of go around
more of
and get more contagious?
We need more of it. We need something like that to run through this like a brush fire, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody's lost in their ways, and they're set in their own mindset, and I miss that kind.
Yeah,
actually getting out, talking to people, helping someone out when they need it.
Yeah. Well, it's just like,
even if you do try, you get attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unpredictable, and it's really a shame, because I mean, it's just like the caption says, the caption next to the picture, just pay it forward. It's how we keep the industry strong. Helping one another is the way the world works. What about you, Poet? I mean, up in your neck of the woods, there's probably a large chunk of roadways and interstates up there that probably have very little, if not any, cell service. So, I mean, it's almost abundantly important to stop and help a brother out.
It is. A lot of outfits when we go up north, like when I went to the Arctic Ocean, I didn't have one. I should have had. And that would be a satellite phone.
Yeah. Very important thing. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Because hours. And you may not see a car or another truck going the other way or even the same way for a half a day.
Yeah. That would be extremely rough. Yeah. What about you, John? I mean, I know you can't really be seen, but as far as paying it forward and someone that, really has seen a lot in the industry with what's going on, pay it forward, do nice for other people. Do we need more of that in this industry?
Oh, heck yeah. I think anytime, and yes, by the way, 7 Cs, I am out of breath. I'm running laps right now. So, with weight loss challenge, I got to run some laps. You know what I mean? I'm going to go until the last minute. So,
right.
So yeah, I am a little out of breath, but yeah, I mean, anytime you can pay it forward, that's a good thing. And even if it's not paying it forward, I mean, just as a Christian, I'll tell you, God will lead you to do things for people, and you won't understand why. But the blessing that you give them is far beyond what anything they could ever imagine. It's amazing. The people out here. I'll use today as an example, okay? Talk about paying it forward. I'm not going to say any names in here, but there is people that watch my channel. Somebody volunteered to get my Mac and bring it all the way down to Florida for me for little to nothing in money. And then the place where my Mac is hasn't charged me any storage fees in the last 2 years. So, I mean, these are blessings. As I was digging myself out of a horrible hole, these are blessings that far outweigh anything. If someone would have just given me money, it wouldn't have been worth what these people are doing for me. So, yeah, anytime you can do something like that for somebody, you may never see the effects of it, but just know that when you do something like that, it will be paid forward. It will be done, to glorify God if you're a Christian, and I am. So that's an awesome thing. So, and I do believe it has something to do with that. So
I believe you're right, and hey, paying it forward has always been a philosophy of mine, and it's the entire principle behind the reason I've started this show. And I really hope that the philosophy, what you spoke of, and what everybody speaks of on this panel, remains seated in this show, because you know what? I can't financially do anything for anybody. I'm getting by. I'm doing okay. But what I can do is give up myself. And any opportunity I have outside of this show and outside of what I do on a normal daily basis, I'm going to do that, because I know, like John said, it will come back around to help you at some point. It's a given. I don't look for it, but it does happen. And John's story a moment ago just proves that. I'm going to move on to another story. And by the way, welcome to 7C. Says he loves Stumper's background, which I think is cool. I like it. I like the one behind Larry as well. It's a little scrunched, Larry. So if you're going to do the background thing, I would recommend putting your phone in landscape. Just saying. But the background is cool. I like that.
Good to know.
Yeah. I mean, because that otherwise it does get scrunched and it kind of looks like you're in a box. Anyway.
I'm in a box.
Yeah. Really? Did you have to ruin it? Joking. Right. So, red tape in trucking. Let me tell you something, guys. After more than 13, 14 years in the industry, I've seen plenty of unnecessary hoops truckers have to jump through. It's like they think it's like they think we all have all this time in the world to fill out forms, pay fees, and just do needless, endless, bureaucratic BS all day long. But here's some news to finally cut through this bureaucratic nonsense. I think you might like. It might sound good. The Transportation Security Screening Modernization Act is making waves. And it was featured in a Landline article. Once again, I'll have linked underneath. You can see for yourself. This so-called common sense legislation, backed by the OOIDA and the American Trucking Association, is being discussed and is designed to streamline the process for obtaining the security credentials we need, like TWIC, our hazmat endorsements, and all the other things associated with getting our CDL. What they're trying to do is eliminate the redundant background checks and nickel-diming us with endless fees and needless processes. For seasoned veterans like you and me, who have been putting in the miles and dealing with this red tape for years, this bill could be a game changer. Now, if Midlife were here, he'd probably call it another one of these feel-good deals. But I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping actually it does go somewhere and it does see the light of day, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. All right. I've got a couple more stories and a couple more things I'm going to let you know about, recent stories that will be eye openers for you, and I think represent moves in a positive direction for the independents as opposed to the big truck. Hence the reason for the thumbnail. So what do you guys think? I mean, up to now, do you guys feel like it's a jump through hoops and an act of Congress to go get your CDLs redone, rechanged? I mean, hazmat guys, put in the comments if you're watching. Let me know what your thought process. If they eased it up and made it easier, would that ease your mind? Is that what would it look good to you? Tell me and let me know. But in terms of getting the job done and not having to go through hoops, what do you think, Thumper? Do you think that's a good move in the right direction, or do you think they're filling us full of garbage?
I see some people drive. I wonder if they get their CD Cracker Jack box. I mean, nobody pays when they're on the road. I've had the front end of my truck taken off at times, or they would come up and almost rear end me when I'm doing the speed limit or texting and driving. And I mean, we're all guilty for that one. I mean, dispatch calling you or whatever else.
Right.
But to get your CDL, I think there needs the classes. I got my CDL when you just went and took the test and did the driving test. You know.
Yeah. What this bill is, just so you know, and just so you and the audience also know, what we're talking about is House Bill 5840. All right, introduced by Republican Garrett Graves, co-sponsored by 61 others, and backed by the OOIDA. What its intent is, and I quote, Act aims to reduce costs and redundancy for such workers as truck drivers, pipeline operators, longshoremen, and warehouse managers. The ridiculous regulations and red tape have crushed our supply chain, and we need to expedite the time it takes to put an essential worker into our workforce, not requiring to stand in line for security credentials, only to have them get back in to obtain redundant background checks. So it has nothing to do with the requirements to get in, just the redundancy behind getting the job done. So just to clarify, they're not looking to make it easier for the unskilled, but just expeditable for the skilled. That's all they're looking to do. So knowing that, I mean, does it kind of ease your concern a little bit, or, you know, because I mean, again, this is coming right from House Bill 5840 from a right landline. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I mean, I'd have to read into it a little bit more, whatnot too. So, yeah, I thought based on, you know, people getting their CDL, but now understanding that, I mean, background checks and stuff. I mean, it's that day and age where it seems like everybody has something on their criminal record now, and it's from something. So, does the laws update to let some stuff now, or do they keep it strict like that and have less?
Well, we're going to be talking in a minute about about another story that could kind of go the opposite direction, but for a different reason. So hold that thought off just a moment. Grumpy, what do you think about in terms of maybe making the process a little bit more streamlined? Does it make sense to you? Or do you, like Thumper, think there's room for concern?
I really don't understand the bill myself, because I mean, it's not making much sense. I mean, what help is it going to provide? I mean, it seems to me like it's not going to help us drivers much.
Well, I can attest to one thing. Okay, one thing being that if you go to the driver's license office and want to recertify for your hazmat test, you can't take the test until you go and get your TSA pre-check done. If you want to renew your hazmat endorsement, you have to first get your TSA pre-check. Then your company may require that you get an updated drug screening. Some companies do, some don't. Mine back in the day did, so I had to go do that. Was step number 2. Then I had to go do step 3, which was go back to DMV, take the test, and then turn all the results into my company, which was step 4. That process took me one time 35 days. 35 days I was down because I made the mistake of waiting until the last minute. My fault, yes, I know. But think about it. If that process could be streamlined and cut in half, think about how easy that would be. I mean, mine was an extreme case, but that's all they're talking about. Just cutting it in half, cutting the time down. So a person like me could actually go out, utilize use of that hazmat endorsement, run the roads, make the revenue, go in, not suffer 2-3 weeks down, having to go back and forth, and get it done that much faster. So I see the sense in it, and I myself endorse it. I don't know.
All right. Well, somebody like yourself that worries about running hazmat or, has to have hazmat, that's fine. I leave it alone. I ran hazmat for a little bit.
Yep.
I don't want nothing to do with it anymore. It's too much of a hassle. I don't care what law they change. It's just too much of a hassle. There's too many tests to take. Yeah. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't pertain. I just, my honest opinion. I mean, it just is. Yep. I'm sorry.
Hey, it is what it is. Well, Poet, I mean, you guys up there, you probably have a different security credential process. But if you think for a moment it doesn't affect you guys, hey, I've said in other stories, watch close, because usually when one government does it, especially when there's cross-border stuff going on, the other is not far behind. So what are your thoughts?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever heard about this deal.
Yeah.
But you can bet I'm going to be looking into it, because
you can bet this channel will be following up on it. That's for sure.
For any driver that runs into the USA, it's going to affect them, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking when I said the question out loud, I was thinking, it didn't affect people going into Canada. But yeah, you're true. The other way around. Cross borders both ways. So I want to take a moment and recognize Tolga. He says, okay, there you are, legends. Left likes to all the streams. I thank you for that. While you guys are at it, others in the audience do the same. Go down below, hit the like button. Definitely helps YouTube decide that I am worth my salt. Please, I'm not out here for my good looks. Just face it, I don't have much of that. His audio is being choppy pretty often. I mean, gentleman with the American flag behind him, he is up in that neck of the woods. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes when a truck passes him, he gets excellent signal for about 2 seconds. Hey, that's what happens up there. But we'll deal with it. Good morning to Satisfrash. I'm glad you made it. Morning, everyone. Late signal, very spotty out here. Seems that way all over the place. That's part of my technical issues this morning, aside from the coffee disaster and conundrum I had. But I'm glad you're in the house nonetheless. Not a big deal, though. Well, stick around, because the rest of the show is about to get real, my friends. I don't know what is wrong with my computer today. I want to go backwards, I go forwards, and this darn thing is not cooperating with me.
Must be opposite day.
I know, and it's probably because I didn't have enough coffee. I don't know. Shame on me.
Well, no, your truck wanted a drink.
There you go. There you go. It definitely did. It wanted a drink. So let's talk about this. It should have been done in the first place. All right. We're going to dive into another story. This one's behind the FMCSA, coming along a little too late, too sorry. You remember last year, I think it was last year, there was a huge accident, a lot of hubbub here in the U.S. I talked about one in other places involving a semi and a bus. Well, something's come of that recently. Yesterday, there was a story in Landline that kind of featured some follow-up information on this. And I think it's a good thing because I'm going to tell you something. Let me get my thoughts together here because I want to make sure I represent this correctly. I just covered a story about making things easy. Well, it's one thing to make things easy getting into the business and get your CDL and get all the requirements, but it's another one entirely to shortcut the system that works, designed to keep us safe. All right? The FMCSA has recently put out a number of recommendations, and these recommendations are regarding our ELD system. All right? What we often get is a bunch of people that decide, you know what, I can do this better than you. And they make shortcuts, they make calls, they do things, and it comes around to bite them. And in this accident you'll read about in this Landline, again, the links will be below, is a perfect example as to why. Think about this. ELD regulations, we currently have pretty liberal control when it comes to our logs. We're forced to certify them, and we usually have to certify one log at the end of each day. And there's usually one driver for one shift per vehicle, sometimes two because you got the team thing. But here's the thing. After the crash I mentioned last year, the FMCSA slapped the company responsible, we all remember it, Triton Logistics, with a measly $36,000 fine. And that was an insult to the people injured and killed. But the recommendations I think they're putting through are a somewhat kick in the butt to say, hey, we heard you. They're talking about putting in things like an audit log that tracks things like date, driver login time, who logged, names of anybody who edited the log, driver's license numbers, active driver list changes, and so on and so forth. What they're talking about is clamping down on the companies that willingly go in, take out drivers, put in ghost drivers, and let logs reflect inaccurate information. And it's high time. So if anybody's out there wondering why they're suddenly removing certain ELDs from the list, you remember those stories. Now it might make some sense because they're putting in these requirements, and not all these ELD makers are meeting those requirements. If you're able to go in and manipulate the driver in question, the times logged, who's in, ghost logs, ain't gonna fly, guys, ain't gonna fly. So let me tell you something. If you're a driver out there and you've got an ELD maker that's providing you with the way to be able to manipulate your logs, look carefully and look into some legitimate ones, because I'll tell you what, when they drop the ELDs, they don't give you much warning, and you are forced to comply or pay the fine. So what do you think, guys? We'll go around the table and talk about this. Larry, I mean, are you kind of set at ease? I mean, because I don't know what kind of ELD you have, but, you know, I mean, when it comes down to it, these things are designed to make sure we comply with fatigue and hours of service and just be safe out there. And if you can run whatever you want, why have them? Go ahead.
I don't think anyone should be able to mess with the logs. It should be what the driver says is what it goes.
Yeah. I mean, as it stands, this whole I keep hitting the wrong one.
I mean, if you're manipulating if someone's manipulating that thing, then I don't think I'd be at that place very long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because overall, what the NTSB found in the days leading up to the crash, the driver had exceeded the 14-hour driving window 4 times. Okay? And the 11-hour driving limit 3. He had also exceeded his 70-hour rule by more than 4 hours in a period of 7 days. So because they were paid by mile, they were given every incentive by the company to falsify their logs and keep moving. And that's what they're trying to eliminate, and that's what they're trying to make almost impossible to do. And that to me makes better sense because you know what? I work with Samsara, and there's no way that I can see with the Samsara system set up currently that could be done. I can't violate the 70-hour rule. I can't go beyond the 14. And if I do, trust me, I have to answer to it. First to my company, but then to the DOT guy going through the weigh station. So, I mean, come on, think about it. When it comes down to it, we all have an obligation, not just to FMC, say not just to the DMV, but to ourselves and the motoring public. And to those companies out there like Triton, shame on you. $36,000, that's a freaking gift, my friend. Larry, what do you think? I mean, or no, Larry Thumper, what do you think? Do you think that's a mere slap on the hand? I mean, yeah, they're doing the right thing by setting the right rules up. The recommendations are. But think about the time it's going to take. And you know what? Just don't do it to begin with.
Yeah, I understand why. I mean, getting paid by the mile and everything else. Yeah, I get. Here's my e-log. I still run paper because my truck is. But I also haul hopper, so I'm on egg exempt. I sat down, was it yesterday, and I figured it out. Run my egg exempt as a regular. I'll do my 11 hours, and I take my breaks and everything. And I sat down and I figured it out yesterday. I've only touched 3 hours to a log this week so far, but like a normal log where this and that, and people going in there doing drivers, and hey, why run yourself down? You're gonna injure somebody, if not worse, or yourself, if not worse. It's just I don't understand it.
Yeah,
And
just the idea. I was going to say I agree with what you're saying, and just the idea itself that a company could be capable of that. I mean, let's just take for example the exemption you mentioned, right? I get the exemptions are there, okay? I get that they ease the stress of a driver behind the wheel getting an emergency situation handled, getting a disaster relief. I get all that. But what are we really gaining when we do that? Are we gaining hours? Are we gaining miles? Or are we gaining stress because of the problem that all of a sudden now we're faced with? Okay, we can go over the 14. We can go over the 70 in the exemption or whatever it says. But what are we really getting? Are we getting any? I mean, are we as drivers or carriers, are we really getting anything different than the normal service regulations? I don't think so. Others may say so.
Paid the same.
Yeah, precisely my point. You know, so why not stick to what works, what is safe? I mean, we can talk on another show about whether or not the current 70-hour or 80-hour rules need changing. That's a whole nother show. And I have my thoughts and opinions on that. But as it applies to this story, what are we gaining? What did Triton Logistics gain? Absolutely nothing. They lost a driver, gained a big lawsuit, and a $36,000 fine. But you can bet your I'm gonna be nice. You can bet your bottom dollar that they're not doing things the same. In fact, if I recall, I think they're almost out of business. They're really contemplating foreclosure if they haven't already. So more power to them. But I mean, we don't need companies in the world doing stuff like that to begin with. Because I mean, more to my question a minute ago, even with Canadian rules being different, we know why Canadian rules are different. We know why the hours of service are adjusted because of the Badlands, country, outback kind of, back and forth you guys do out there. But still, I mean, even that being the case, how often is it really necessary to go beyond what makes common sense, as I spoke of in the first story. How often? I mean, really, does it help you? Does it help you guys up there?
No, it doesn't.
Oh yeah,
And it all comes down to this.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
it all comes down to the bottom dollar. Yep.
I worked for an outfit for about 3 months that wanted me to run paper down at the border and then switch to an ELD. And I refused to. That's running 2 logs. That's illegal.
It is. It is.
Yeah. And I, like I put up in the comments, I see biometrics in the future.
Oh, there's no doubt.
10 of your
And it's high time. It really is. I fully agree with that statement, Poet. I really do. And I think they're looking into it currently, but because there's some issues with, I guess, identity theft, they really haven't pushed the issue down here. But I agree. It's high time we do that. What do you think, Grumpy? Do you think that the idea of trying to push yourself, even with or without an exemption, or even with a falsified log, do you think it really, in the end, is nonsense? Do you what are your thoughts?
Well, I basically will say to this is, there's no sense in running illegal at all. And this ghosting and all that is for the birds big time. I mean, I wouldn't even feed it to the birds. But, things are going to change, and I think it's going to go for the better on that issue. It's going to stop a lot of these companies from overseas, or they're here, but they run them from overseas, from having all this capability of trying to make more money off their drivers by running them harder. Of course, the drivers aren't going to be keen on it because a lot of them are set up and they like doing that stuff. Because I personally know someone that way. I won't mention the person's name, but I personally know them, and they run like that. And I can't see doing it. You get very fatigued. You get very dangerous out there. There's just no sense in it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I agree. And Daryl Edge, welcome to the show. We are not that kind of news show, my friend. I don't cover weather on all 4 corners of our continent, but I'm sure there are plenty that do. But you can get some pretty lively opinions and commentary and leave some yourself. You're welcome to it. We are the voice of the truckers. So I appreciate you stopping in. Go ahead, Thumper. What you got, man? Thumper, you might want to check your audio, my friend. Yeah. Now I can hear you. Yeah. What's going to happen with?
There we go. Sorry. Yeah. So my question is, well, what's going to happen when, or if, with or that Chevron law disappears, the lawsuit and all that, mandate that the government is telling us we have to buy e-logs.
Mm-hmm.
Snowball effect, like what's going to happen? Okay. Say a year down the road, that Chevron law dissipates. What's everybody going to go back to do? Paper log, or are they going to keep the e-log, or how are you going to enforce that?
Well, I don't think. First of all, I think the Chevron is over-reported and over-assumed. But to your point, I get it. I get what you're saying, because I mean, lawmakers nowadays, they want nothing but control. And we want freedom, so we're fighting each other naturally. Chevron does nothing more than give lawyers something to get paid on. That's all it does. It really doesn't do anything for the yous and the me's. It doesn't really help the carriers, and it doesn't really help the shippers and receivers. It does nothing.
No, I mean, it's all about money, is all.
Well, and unfortunately, the money is in the wrong direction, because on a lot of this, think about what Chevron was first instituted for. It was a lawsuit over fisheries. Really, all it was. So the whole lawsuit and the first decision didn't affect us until it came around to being used as a precedent. So, a lot of trucking channels, a lot of trucking news channels talk about the Chevron as if it's the setup to, okay, now we can get everything overturned. No, it will help, yes, and in it's being overturned can be used as a precedent the way the original decision was, but it's not the golden ticket everybody thinks. You know, I mean, I would like to think it is, because believe you me, I can think of half a dozen regulations that need to go bye-bye. You know, but at the same time, be careful what you wish for, because the moment you have that kind of chaos, guess what happens? We suffer the consequences. So I hear your point, and Thumper, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But I'm going to say careful on that one. Larry, what do you think? I mean, good Lord, if, to his point, if something like that were put in, you know, and we suddenly lost track, as opposed to, you know, we're putting more clamps down on who can use the ELDs, what changes can be made. Does that make you worry?
A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the average driver.
I don't like people messing with my logs.
Yeah.
I can't stand that. That's my log. That's mine, not theirs.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I don't think any company should ever have.
I've actually worked for a company that actually did that. When they'd see you running low on hours, they'd push it back to where you got more.
Hopefully you didn't work for them very long.
No.
Yeah. Those kind of people, they probably got found out, and, you know, don't mention company names, but probably got found out, got fined, got changed, or something like that. So we can always hope that when problems like that are discovered, the issues are resolved and done so quickly. By the way, we got a few more minutes. We're going to talk a few more minutes about these stories. If you want to call in and voice your sound off on your thoughts, 860-785-3547, 860-785-3547. We will keep the studio lines active, assuming I can find it. There we go. We will certainly, and he ain't here, so I'm clicking things randomly here. So I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, guys, I mean, safety is the utmost concern.
Yeah.
I have
an audit. Everybody's.
Yeah, I have an audit requirement. And let me tell you something. I was surprised because you actually brought this to my attention, Grumpy. I was surprised long ago. I never used to pay attention to certify the logs. And you spotted, Grumpy, a story in a news article that I missed. And I remember back about 3 months ago, we were on a live show, and I remember you pointed out to me on the backstage, on the back end of a story I'd covered, that there's actually a law now that says DOT can cite you for not certifying your logs every 24 hours. You remember that?
Yep. And the really nice thing about like running Samsara is you can actually certify as you go, and it takes care of it.
Yeah.
So Tom actually with Midlife, he actually was the one that pointed that out to me and told me that you can certify as you're going. I'm like, I said, but you can go back and fix something if you oopsied, it's not drive time. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, you can fix your off duty time and your on duty time. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's the only stuff we're supposed to be able to edit anyhow without contacting our log department. And even if they edit, it's going to reflect as a red line on there, and it's going to show. So then they have to describe what happened.
Yeah.
A good example is the other day, whenever my truck was in the shop, I logged out of my ELD, but for some reason it still recorded that there was drive movement in the truck, and I wasn't able to take it off or anything. Even my log department tried to report it as showing as it was in the shop, because as long as you're able to prove it by GPS where the truck is sitting at and movement at, then and prove that it was in a shop or something like that, and it's shop time, then it doesn't go against the driver. So that's a plus on that. But
and here's the other thing too. I've also come to learn, looking both through the regulations as well as my company's current setup and system. If you have movement after logging off duty, first of all, log off duty, record in comments, truck in shop, and then sign out of the device. And what I was told is when you log back in, you're going to have an unclaimed movement present. You go ahead and hit reject. And then in that explanation for that rejection, put down in the invoice number and the fact that it was test drive activity or mechanic movement or something other than you responsible. And then you're required by law to produce the document proving the mechanic moved it or test drove it. I mean, it depends on the circumstance, but the idea that they're asking for documentation, that's a plus because that covers your butt in the very situation you just mentioned a moment ago.
And just like I said, with that there being said, what you just pointed out is if you're like an owner operator, that's a very good thing to do. Now, your company, like I am, the company usually keeps most of them records, so they don't have a problem with faxing that stuff over and proving it. They also can send them the GPS movements and all that, you know, so that's a little bit different. But yes, the point you brought out is very good for somebody that's an owner operator.
Yep, it is. It is very good to know. But you know what? Hey, it all comes down to what they're doing. What they're doing is they're making sure, because obviously carriers can't do it on their own, but they're making sure that we're operating safely. Now, a lot of people will complain and will say, it's Big Brother. We know how to do our jobs. Oh, really? Did the guy driving that Triton truck know how to do his job?
Right.
Good question. You know, I mean, there's an argument and a common sense comeback for every single person that feels like they know more than you. But you know what? In this industry, it's not about you. It's about all of us. That's my whole purpose behind the show, and it's the whole reason why I ask you, become a subscriber, look at the people on this panel. The people on this panel currently represent damn near 100 years or more of experience. We are the show that all others can't be. And I'm not tooting my own horn. All I'm simply telling you is that when it comes down to it, this industry is not about you. It's about all of us. When we make decisions that force ourselves into situations where others get hurt, we don't hurt just ourselves, we hurt everyone around us. The current segment or setup of rules and regulations that you think oppress us are because they're needed to address us, those of us who don't know how to do what we do. So let's get smart. Let's think it through. Let's do everything we can to make sure that people like you and me agree with each other, are on the same page, and can, at the end of the day, operate safely, on time, make a happy living. Definitely, without a doubt. I'm trying to think of these words as I'm going, so bear with me being tongue-tied. Make money, but make a living too. We all made this choice. You know, I opened up. We have a choice before us. Choice is up to you. Last words as we go around the table. I mean, I think, obviously, we represented stories both good and bad. You know, when it comes down to it, some things are blessings, making it easier for us to get our job done. Others are necessary evils. Do you think it's a little too soon, too late? What are your thoughts, Larry?
It needs a lot of improving, but it's getting there slowly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we have our work cut out for us, whether it be FMCSA, you know, people trying to get into the industry a little easier.
If people wouldn't mess up, there wouldn't be so many regulations either. So
very true, very true. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, one thing at a time. We address one law, one rule. And I think what I said earlier, you know, we got to think of each other. It's not, I didn't put up Pay It Forward for no reason. I put it up there to resume the idea that, you know what, it's not just about you. It's about all of us.
No.
You agree with that, Larry?
Oh, yeah. It's not just about me or anybody else. I mean, it's about everybody on here, plus everybody around you.
Yeah.
So it's not just me.
Yeah. Amen to that. Thumper, I'm gonna give you a chance because your signal comes and goes, so I'm gonna help you kind of seal it up. What are your thoughts?
My phone overheated. That's why it disappeared.
Oh.
It's just like anything. It could all be improved, but we learn as we go. That's just how life is. If you're not learning something every day, you're not doing something right.
Yep.
That's how I've always grown up. That's how I always feel about it and everything. And I don't know everything, so I try to learn something new every day, no matter how small it is or anything like that. But as far as everybody else, I wish they would all just take that advice too and try to learn something. And if we all work together, we can make trucking great again.
Amen to that. Nice shameless plug. We can work together. We can make it happen. We can learn a little bit more as we go. That's the advice from Thumper and Bo. Poet, you are one hell of a patient individual. I'll tell you what. But patience is but a simple virtue. When it comes down to these changes, do you think it should have been done faster, or what are your thoughts?
It should have been done years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. It should have been done years ago. Because Ghost, way back when, no different than running 2 or 3 or 4 logbooks back in the day.
Yep. I agree.
So, and as far as Thumper's last comment, I will learn to the day they put me 6 feet under, and then I will learn a new way at the sky.
There you go. Grumpy, I'm going to give you the last word, my friend. When it comes down to patience, FMCSA logbooks, rules and regulations, and all the stories we covered today, what are your thoughts?
Man, I'll tell you what, I've been doing this, like I said, for 24 years, and things change over time. We all have to adjust. It's either going to be good or it's going to be bad, and hopefully it'll be for the best, one way or the other.
Yep. I think, you know what? Every day's different. Today's stories, I was hoping, and I think, currently represents what could be a step up in this industry. Mark my words, as easy as it is to read these stories, to talk junk about the FMCSA, the government, and everything going on in this day and age, it's just as easy to point out the obvious. Cheat the system, and they're coming for you. Just be honest. Do it the right way. Trust me, it's cheaper in the end. Guys, till next time, remember, it's trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. Look for us on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and definitely during the week with random videos and things you need to know to make your life and trucking great again. Till next time, keep it real, keep the faith, and keep it rolling.